Musashi's journey into mental toughness began with pure necessity. Born in 1584, he was abandoned by his mother as a child and raised by an uncle and a priest. His father was absent and eventually killed when Musashi was young. By age 7, he was essentially orphaned, growing up rough, undisciplined, and prone to violence. His first duel came at age 13. His opponent was a wandering samurai named Arima Kihei, an experienced warrior who made the fatal mistake of underestimating the wild-eyed teenager. Musashi attacked with such ferocity that he threw Arima to the ground and beat him to death. It was ugly, brutal, and far from the refined swordsmanship he would later become famous for. After that first kill, Musashi could have settled into a comfortable life. Instead, he chose the opposite path. At 16, he left home to embark on a warrior pilgrimage, wandering across Japan, challenging masters to duels, sleeping in forests and temples, enduring cold, hunger, and constant danger. This wasn't masochism. It was a deliberate strategy to forge his character through adversity. For modern people seeking mental toughness, Musashi's early life offers a radical prescription. Stop seeking comfort. Mental toughness isn't built in comfort. It's built in deliberately chosen hardship. This doesn't mean becoming a wandering ronin, but it does mean seeking out challenges that make you uncomfortable. Choose the cold shower, the difficult conversation, the ambitious project that scares you. When you've deliberately made yourself uncomfortable 1,000 times, the unexpected hardships of life become just another familiar adversary. The power of preparation. Why Musashi never left anything to chance. What many people miss about the Kojiro duel is that Musashi's psychological tactics weren't improvised genius. They were the result of meticulous preparation. He had studied everything about his opponent. Kojiro's impossibly long blade, his hot temperament, even the exact dimensions of his fighting stance. So Musashi carved his wooden sword to be just slightly longer than Kojiro's famous blade, neutralizing his opponent's primary advantage. He arrived late to throw off Kojiro's mental preparation and provoke him into emotional fighting. He even timed his arrival so the sun would be in Kojiro's eyes. Every detail was planned. This obsessive preparation became Musashi's signature. Before any important duel, he would spend days or weeks gathering intelligence, studying terrain, considering weather patterns, and identifying every possible variable. His mental toughness wasn't about charging blindly into challenges. It was about entering them with such thorough preparation that uncertainty itself became a weapon. In The Book of Five Rings, Musashi wrote, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." True strength came from having already mentally walked through multiple scenarios, having backup plans for your backup plans. For building mental toughness today, this principle is transformative. Most people experience stress because they feel unprepared and out of control. Mental toughness isn't about being naturally calm under pressure. It's about having done so much preparation that pressure itself becomes less intense. When the moment arrives, you won't need Hollywood-style toughness. You'll be calm because you've already been there in your mind 100 times. Detachment from outcome, the freedom of not caring. By his mid-20s, Musashi had fought and won more than 60 duels. He had killed dozens of men, some of them celebrated masters. And then something remarkable happened. He began to see through the illusion of winning and losing. After defeating the Yoshioka clan in Kyoto, fighting and defeating multiple opponents simultaneously, Musashi went into the mountains for months. He was haunted not by fear, but by a deeper question. What was all this fighting for? This period led to one of his most powerful insights. Attachment to outcomes was a form of weakness. When you need to win, when your identity depends on victory, you create a vulnerability. You fight not from clarity and freedom, but from fear and desperation. And that fear makes you brittle. Musashi developed what he called hijishin, an everyday mind or state of unshakable calm regardless of circumstances. He would prepare exhaustively for duels, but once the fight began, he held his own life loosely. He was as prepared to die as to win, which paradoxically made him more dangerous. A famous story illustrates this. A young samurai challenged him to a duel at dawn. Musashi never showed up. The young samurai waited all day, growing increasingly angry and humiliated. The next day, Musashi sent a message, "I already won that duel. You were defeated the moment you needed to defeat me to feel whole." For modern life, this lesson is perhaps most challenging and valuable. We live in an outcome-obsessed culture where our worth is measured by achievements and external validation. Building mental toughness requires breaking this dependency. Show up, do your absolute best, then release attachment to results. This isn't resignation. It's caring so much about the process and the person you're becoming that outcomes become secondary. When you achieve this detachment, you become anti-fragile. Failure can't devastate you because you never bet your entire identity on winning. The discipline of self-improvement, becoming your own sensei. After his dueling days ended around age 30, Musashi didn't rest on his reputation. He moved to a cave near Kumamoto and began the systematic study of everything that interested him: calligraphy, painting, poetry, sculpture, metallurgy, and philosophy. This wasn't dilettanteism. It was deliberate cross-training of the mind. Musashi believed that to truly master the sword, you needed to understand the principles underlying all forms of mastery. He spent hours perfecting brushstrokes because the concentration required sharpened his mental discipline. He learned sculpture because understanding three-dimensional space improved his tactical awareness. Most remarkably, he did all of this without a teacher. After his early instruction, Musashi was essentially self-taught. He developed a systematic approach: observe everything, question everything, practice deliberately, reflect constantly, and never assume you've achieved mastery. This self-directed discipline is perhaps Musashi's most applicable lesson for today. In an age of endless courses and coaching programs, we've outsourced our growth to external authorities. Musashi teaches a different path. Become your own sensei. Take full ownership of your development. Start by adopting Musashi's practice of daily self-examination. Each evening, he would review his day. What did I do well? Where did I fail? What patterns do I notice? What will I do differently tomorrow? Over years, this practice gave him almost supernatural self-awareness. Then create your own cross-training program. Musashi's genius was recognizing that mental toughness isn't domain-specific. It's a transferable capacity you build through varied challenges. Simplicity as strength. Cutting away the unnecessary. One of the most striking things about Musashi's later philosophy was his devotion to simplicity. His final innovation in swordsmanship was radically simple. Hold both swords naturally, move naturally, cut naturally. Remove everything ornamental, ceremonial, or unnecessary. This philosophy extended to every aspect of his life. He wore simple clothes, owned few possessions, and lived in Spartan conditions by choice. When he finally settled down, he lived in a cave called the Ryagando. He could have lived in comfort. He was famous and had wealthy patrons, but he chose austerity. Why? Because Musashi understood that complexity is a form of weakness. Every possession is something that can be lost, creating anxiety. Every elaborate technique is another thing that can fail under pressure. Every comfort you depend on is a vulnerability. The simpler your life, the fewer points of failure you have. For modern mental toughness, this principle is liberation. We accumulate possessions, commitments, apps, subscriptions, and goals until we're buried under the weight of our own ambitions. Then we wonder why we feel anxious and scattered. Musashi would tell you to cut away the unnecessary. Look at your life and ask, what can I remove without losing what matters? What complexity have I added that makes me more fragile rather than more capable? Try this exercise. For 1 month, each day remove one unnecessary thing from your life. A possession, a subscription, an obligation, or a belief about yourself. Notice what happens to your mental clarity. Mental toughness isn't about carrying more weight. It's about carrying only what matters with complete focus. The long game, patience as a weapon. Perhaps the most overlooked aspect of Musashi's mental toughness was his extraordinary patience. After his dueling days ended, Musashi spent the last 30 years of his life perfecting himself. He knew he would never fight another serious duel, yet he practiced sword techniques daily until the week before his death at age 61. In an earlier duel with a master named Shishido Baiken, who wielded a sickle on a chain, Musashi demonstrated tactical patience. Baiken's weapon had longer reach, so Musashi simply waited. He backed away and evaded for nearly an hour while his opponent grew increasingly frustrated and exhausted. Only when Baiken's arms were shaking did Musashi move in and end the fight with a single strike. This kind of patience is almost alien to modern culture. We expect results in weeks or months, not years or decades. We abandon strategies that don't show immediate progress. Musashi teaches that this impatience is itself a weakness. Mental toughness requires the ability to commit to long-term processes without constant validation. It means being willing to do unrewarded work because you know it's building something important. Identify one area where you'll commit to 10 years of consistent effort regardless of external results. Make a pact. For the next decade, you'll show up regularly and do the work, measuring success only by whether you kept the commitment. This practice rewires your reward system. Over time, you'll find deep satisfaction in the process itself. The final lesson, facing death to embrace life. In his final week of life, weak from what was probably thoracic cancer, Musashi completed the Book of 5 Rings and wrote a shorter document called The Way of Walking Alone. The first precept reads, "Accept everything just the way it is." The last one, "Do not fear death." This reveals Musashi's final insight about mental toughness. It is fundamentally about accepting reality completely, including your own mortality. When you truly understand that you will die, that this moment is temporary, something remarkable happens. You become free. Not free in the sense of not caring, but free from the desperate clinging that makes us fragile. Musashi spent his life walking the edge between life and death. This proximity to death wasn't morbid, it was clarifying. It burned away everything superficial and revealed what mattered. You don't need to risk your life to learn this lesson. But contemplate your own mortality. When you imagine yourself on your deathbed looking back at your life, what do you care about? What would you regret? What would make you proud? Then live according to that understanding. Let your mortality inform your daily choices. Musashi's mental toughness ultimately came from this clarity. He knew he was going to die, so nothing else was worth hiding from or avoiding. This perspective didn't make him nihilistic. It made him present, committed, and genuinely free. The path forward. When Musashi died in that cave in 1645, he left behind a blueprint for building an unshakable mind through deliberate, systematic development. Embrace discomfort, prepare obsessively, detach from outcomes, direct your own learning, simplify everything, play the long game, and accept mortality. The mental toughness Musashi built allowed him to walk onto Gonryu Island with a wooden sword and no fear. It allowed him to revolutionize multiple art forms after leaving combat behind. It allowed him to face death with the same calm he brought to everything else. You're not training to fight duels to the death, but you are facing your own battles, career challenges, relationship struggles, health issues, creative projects, personal growth. The same principles that forged Musashi's legendary mental toughness can forge yours. Musashi carved his first wooden sword from a boat or because he refused to accept the limitations of his situation. He arrived late to his most important duel because he understood that the battle was psychological before it was physical. He spent 30 years in obscurity perfecting arts that no one asked him to master because he was building something beyond reputation. As Musashi wrote in his final days, "If you learn the way broadly, you will see it in everything." The path to mental toughness is everywhere around you, hidden in every challenge, every discomfort, every moment you could choose courage over comfort. The only question is, will you walk it?